With percents, you're going to see a big application of what you've seen so far this chapter of solving equations and solving proportions. Our target is that we're going to solve percents using proportions and the percent equation, which basically means we're going to present a few different ways to solve these kinds of problems. So first, the percent proportion. Proportion has a ratio set equal to another ratio. You'll see these words a lot, part and whole. So if we're talking about, you're hitting 1 out of every 4 free throws. So that would be like having let's get my pen. That's going to be like having 1 out of 4, 1 is the part, 4 is the whole, is equal to, and then I want to know what percent that is. Well, you should know that that is 25%. And percents compare a number to 100. So we can agree that that's equivalent, that 1 over 4 is equal to 25 over 100. Now here's 2 different ways to write this as an equation. The key difference is instead of having 25 over 100, we're thinking that percent as a decimal and not a ratio, not as a fraction. So the part over the whole, that would be 1 over 4, is equal to 25% as a decimal, 0.25, which we can all agree is equivalent. Another way to think of this is that the part is equal to the percentage times the whole. That's because you're taking the percent equation, 1/4 equals 0.25, and I'm getting the part on a side by itself. The part portion was 1. So just think with basic equations, if I want to isolate the 1 part of there, I multiply both sides by 4, and I have 1 equals 0.25 times 4, which is 1. So you see how this works out, because we will agree that 1 equals 1. So those are just 2 different ways to set it up. Most of the time, I think of it like this, that the part over the whole is equal to the percent as a decimal. That's the way that my brain leans toward. So let's see some application of this. Always remember that the word of means to multiply. Translate that as multiplying. So the part equals the percentage times the whole. So 1 is 25% of 4. Think of that. So let's look at another one here. 160% of what number is 200? You can see how I've pointed out the different portions of this. 160% is obviously the percent. Of, remember, means multiply. What number? That's the whole, because we want to know 160% out of what portion, out of what whole portion. Is equals, and 200 is part. So it's like translating equations that we did earlier in the year. So put that together, the percentage times the whole, so it's 1.6. That's because 160%, you take the decimal, you move it over 2 spots, so it is 1.6 times the whole number. That's going to be x, the part that we don't know, because it says what number. And instead of putting a multiplication sign, we're just putting those back to back, equals the part 200. Now I can go about solving that by trying to isolate my variable. I want to undo multiplying by 1.6, so I'm going to divide both sides by 1.6. And I'm going to cheat a little bit and pull a calculator out. 200 divided by 1.6 is 125. So x equals 125. And let's think about it. This makes sense because 160% is 1 and then another portion of 1 whole. So that's like having 125 in addition to that 60% of 125, which does end up being 200. Another application you're going to see is with the simple interest formula. I equals PRT. You worked with this last year. I is the interest, money created in dollars. This could be money that's being paid as a fee to borrow money from a bank, or money that you're earning, such as you invested your money in the bank. You let them borrow your money. P is the principal. That's the starting out amount of money. You may have borrowed $10,000 or you deposited $3,000. That's your principal. R is the rate. This is the interest rate per year, a 6% charge that might have been it, and this is going to be in decimal form. T is the time the money is invested or borrowed, and that's going to be in years. So if it was invested for 6 months, that number there is going to be 0.5 because it's half of a year. So in order to solve things like this, you're going to plug in what you know, solve for the variable, which is what you don't know, because it's not always going to be the interest that you don't know. It might be the time that you don't know. So you plug those values into the equation, then solve for the part that you don't know. So here, let's practice it a little bit. What is 150% of 63? What we don't know is the part. Remember, the part over the whole equals the percent. So let's plug in the parts that we know. 150% is the percentage, and so we're going to write that as a decimal. 1.5 equals, what we don't know is the part. What portion is going to be 150% of 63? So I'm going to put x over 63. Now it's an equation that I can go about solving. I'm going to undo dividing by 63 by multiplying both sides by 63. So that cancels, and x, which is, so 1.5 times 63 is 94.5. Okay, let's look at another example. 60% of what number is 13.5? You see how the unknown is different. Over here, I didn't know the is. Over here, I don't know the what number. So 60%, remember, part over whole equals the percent. So that's going to be 0.6 is equal to, the part is 13.5. I don't know the whole portion there. So to solve this equation, I'm wanting to isolate x. X is what's being divided. It's not being divided by 13.5. I'm starting with 13.5. So I'm going to multiply both sides by x to get that out of the denominator. So x divided by x would cancel there. So I have 13.5 on the left is equal to 0.6x. Okay? Now I'm ready to undo multiplying by 0.6 by dividing both sides by 0.6. Let's get that calculator back out. 13.5 divided by 0.6 is 22.5. X equals 22.5.